Hey, welcome to MDY Online Bible Class. We are starting a new format this Sunday where we are going to have one or two people each week join us online, join us via Zoom to talk about our Bible passage for that week. To talk about our Bible passage for that week. So we're starting a study of the book of James, and this week Nathan Strickland is going to join us and talk through it. Absolutely perfect timing for him to be the one to kick us off this week. So let's begin our session with Nathan now. All right, so I want to welcome on here Nathan Strickland, which I think most everybody knows Nathan, and he was gracious enough to help us out this first week, because even though I made the offer to several of our teens to do this the first week, nobody took me up on this offer, and I think it's just because, man, this is it's something new, and it's a little bit awkward, and so Nathan agreed to come on and do this new format of online Bible class with us, just to show you all that, oh, it's not terribly hard, and Trent's not going to make me look stupid and all that. So the really cool thing about this is Nathan and I were just talking a moment ago about just it's really crazy, amazing how God works, and so our passage this week, this first week in the book of James, after I gave it to Nathan to look over, I was like, wow, this is like really a perfect passage for Nathan to talk about, just because of what their family's been through. And so Nathan, begin by saying hello to everybody.
Hi guys, you know me, I'm Nathan. I guess for those who don't know me, yeah.
Okay. Now that's good for now. I'm going to go ahead and read our passage for this week, over the dog barking in the background there. But we're starting the book of James, and we're in James chapter 1, and we're just looking at verses 1 through 4 this week. And so it says, James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes scattered among the nations, greetings. So we've been greeted. But I probably where we'll land more this week is in these next two verses. And it says this. Honestly, this is maybe one of the most loved and hated passages. I know I kind of have a love-hate relationship with this, just based on this first sentence. And it says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds." I've been hearing this my whole life, and I read that and I'm like, what? But anyway, it goes on. It says, "Because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance, and perseverance must finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." Okay, that's all. It's like simultaneously like incredibly encouraging to hear that, and then also it's like, what, that, man, I don't like that. But anyway, so I want to just ask you, what stands out to you from that verse? When you read through that, what were you thinking? What were you thinking specifically that you wanted to talk about?
Well, Trent, this was a perfect passage for me because of my family's history, but not only that, but a few months ago, I was doing individual Bible studies and I was writing down notes in my notebook. And so I'm reading this passage. I'm like, wait, I feel like I've been here before just recently. So I grabbed my notebook and I open it, and I had done a Bible study about finding peace in a bad situation. And it was by this guy named Dr. Paul Dean. I don't know who he is, but I really like to study. And he gave like 5 things to do for finding peace. I'm only going to talk about the first one because that's where the focus is. But actually, speaking of focus, the first step he says is adjust your focus. And I think this can be a hard part to do, but he says focus on God opposed to the situation. And I mean, when you're going through a hard time, it could be very easy like to focus on the situation. Like for those who don't know, with my dad's history, 10 years ago he was in Afghanistan, or border of Pakistan, and his squad ran over IED, and he lost both his legs and got a traumatic brain injury. And of course, I was like 11 years old. I'm thinking, that's all I'm thinking about. Like, it's all you can think about in that situation. That's all my family could think about. So if someone told me like focus on God opposed to the situation, I'd be like, are you crazy? Like, my dad just got blown up.
Yeah.
um, and he talked about this quote, or he said a quote. He said, "Biblical joy is the knowledge that God is in control of your circumstances and allows only that which is good for you into your life." And I thought that was powerful. So when he talks about the trial, that is not the actual thing that brings the joy, because no one like goes through a trial and says, "Oh man, I'm just so happy, like I'm so joyful." It's not like I heard about my dad getting injured. I'm like, "Oh man, this is great. It's perfect. I'm so happy." It's not the trial that brings the joy. It's but what God is doing for us during the trial or even after the trial that brings the joy. Because and I can definitely attest to that, because these last 10 years, there's been so much good that came out of my dad getting injured. Not saying I would like him to, like, I wish this would have happened to him, but just this trial that my family and I went through, it's brought so much good, not just for my family, but for other people who are inspired by my dad and his life. And what makes it better is that my dad never strayed away from God. He always focused on him. Maybe I have to ask my mom sometime about the "It Is Well" story when my dad was in a hospital bed. He has his jaws locked up, and like, his eyes are shut, but he's just forcing out the lyrics "It is well with my soul," crying. I think that's really powerful. So what I got from this is, like I said, you want to adjust your focus, and I know that's really hard. That's going to be the hardest part of 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 the trial, is focusing on God, because with something bad in front of you, that's all you want to think about. So I think it's really important for you to adjust your focus onto God and remind yourself that the joy doesn't come from the trial, but what God is doing in our lives. And it does build perseverance. My family and I definitely persevered the last 10 years through stuff that's happened. And I'm really happy with the results that God has done for us. I'm happy with who I am today, that I've been affected by uh, the the things that have happened for me and that have built and shaped my character, along with my family's, especially my dad. My dad, of course, had the hardest time going through it, opposed to us. We're just feeling sad that he might die. He's actually going through it. But so this was his trial, and we all persevered through it. And I can definitely say, the Bible, it doesn't lie. It definitely, it builds perseverance. But you have to remember, it's not the trial that brings the joy, but what God is doing before, during, and after the trial. And I think that's really important to remember.
Yeah. Hey, so let me ask you a couple of questions. One for, maybe for someone out there listening to this, maybe one of our students or whatever, that one of the things you mentioned was about um, the focusing on what God will do. in the situation. Um, what about someone who is not sure that God will do? What about someone who's like struggling, like, I don't even know that there is a God? um, what would you say to, because for me, I mean, I think in most situations, I'm when I choose to change that focus, then yeah, I do. I look to God because he, I look at all the times he's been faithful in the past, you know, and like for you right now, going forward in your life, you'll look at what God has done through this and you'll see, okay, he worked there. So I'm hopeful that he's going to work. I, I know that he's going to work there in the future. Um, but I wonder about someone who struggles to know that and just where do you think you can find just that the hope? I hope that God will do something. I hope that God will work. Where do you think you start digging that out?
Right.
And that's not a question I gave you on the front end. So I mean,
Right.
we're kind of wrestling through this together now.
Kind of good at thinking on my feet, so I think I can whip something
Good.
up.
Yeah.
But I think for my family situation, that was, I think that's a trial we've already been through. I feel like we're over it now. As for me, as a young adult, going to into real life, now I have my own trials, and sometimes I do. I have my doubts. Not saying I don't believe in God. I'm just saying I have doubts because sometimes it just feels like good things like just like never happen. So, but and yeah, I feel like you got to find the support to just keep on praying, keep on trying because my mom will ask me if I'm finding the things I'm looking for. I'm like, not really, you know. And she's like, just keep praying about it.
Mm,
I think surrounding yourself with people who believe just like you, who are just a church community in general. Because you could go to church, you can have your doubts, but surrounding yourself with people who have already been through it all, and
yeah.
they can definitely give you the knowledge and the faith that you might feel like you're missing. So my parents obviously been through everything. They're in their mid 40s. So they give me advice, they give my brother advice, stuff like that. So, and for the youth group, it's easy to surround yourself in school with people who may not think like you. Maybe they're not good influences on you. I feel like stray away from those people because continuing to hang around those people, your faith is just gonna keep dropping. And I had to learn that, of course, in high school and even now sometimes. But I think just surrounding yourself with good community is what helps you to keep that faith going.
Yeah, good. So I want to just kind of maybe wrap up with one final question for
Mhm.
you. You're still young and that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing for you. And so in this passage, it kind of gives us the idea that these trials kind of build on each other and they help us toward growth because it says here, it talks about developing perseverance
Mhm.
um, and that those trials must finish their work so that we can become mature and complete. Um, so like just not specifically even just your dad's trial and the injury that he sustained, but like just kind of all the trials you faced, all the difficulties you faced through life, big things, little things. How do you how do you feel like those things have helped you grow? How do you feel like they've helped you become more mature, more complete to this point? I mean, not that you're complete. Not, yeah, I mean,
Right.
not that I'm, fully mature and complete. I mean, we're all in this process, but to where you are today, how do you think things have helped you?
Oh, definitely. The influence of staying faithful to God during the trial. I think I've learned that. I think I know why God gave me my specific parents for a reason. They've been through so much and they still continue to go through so much. And I see that no matter what happens bad that happens to them, they stay faithful. They still trust in God. They believe everything will work out. He has a plan. And I really think for this transition in my life, I really needed parents like that. I need people like that, like people at church even, who no matter what happens, and no matter how many trials they face, they stay faithful. They're like, I may be going through this, I may be going through that, but God has a plan. So I think that's really good influence for me, and it can be good influence for other people, of course.
Great. Well, and I think one thing that's really important to learn, and especially from your family situation, is that getting through a trial doesn't mean that God's gonna like undo everything and make everything right.
Right.
You said a lot of good has come from it, but your dad still is missing two legs.
Mhm.
I mean, it's like he hasn't had his body fully restored, but yet God has done other things. God has done
Right.
other good things, and you guys have been blessed. So I think that's one thing for anyone watching this to remember, is that not everything may be made right like before the trial started, but there's other good things that can come along, and just to trust in God to do those things. So
Right. God takes, but he also gives. So,
yes,
but
yeah,
he may have taken my dad's legs, or he, I wouldn't say he took them, but they're waiting in heaven for him.
yeah.
But he's given so much. So you got to focus on the fact that he has given us, opposed to the fact that he has taken also.
Yeah. Well, I just going back to the very beginning, kind of to wrap up, I think that thing you said at the very beginning is so important.
Mm.
And it's like adjust our focus, um, because we can like just focus fully on the problem that's before us, or we can focus on God, and focus on where He's working and maybe what He's doing in the midst of that. And that's so important, because when we just get to staring at the problem, we get overwhelmed with, and that's all we see. And so that really kind of sums up everything. So
Actually, this is really important. Actually, when my mom got the call about my dad, it's the worst I've ever seen her. Of course, like she's been told her husband might die. She's on the floor crying, but at the same time, she's telling my brother and I, she's like, go pray, go pray. She's like telling it, she doesn't want us to see her like this. She
mm,
tells it, she's just go pray. And so even in that midst of getting terrible news, she's telling us to go pray. And I think that's the adjusting your focus right there.
yeah, yeah, that's really really cool, and really such simple advice from this passage for us.
Mhm.
And so, hey, I really appreciate you joining us. I hopefully everybody watching, hopefully there'll be some of our teens that'll be like, oh, I can do that. They're just
Yeah,
talking.
of
So,
course.
but anyway, I appreciate very much, and I hope you have a great weekend. And maybe
You too.
I'll see you at church this Sunday, since we're like actually back at church.
Yeah, we got to wear a mask though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'll be there with mask on. So Nathan, thanks a bunch, and
No problem.
we'll see each other soon. So to finish up today, I just want to make a few announcements for some things coming up in our youth ministry. One is tonight, if you're watching this on Sunday, tonight, November 1, we're going to begin our new series called Deep Dive. And we're going to meet every Sunday evening that we can, from 6 to 7:30. And we're going to meet at the East Side building, just so we can stay distance, fairly well and as safe as we can. We are beginning deep dive with a read through the book Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. And so you don't have to have the book to start the session tonight, but at least by next week, if everybody could have a copy of that book, and we'll kind of figure out how much needs to be read each week to come and discuss. But anyway, even if you're not sure about it or whatever, join us tonight and just see what it's all about. It's one of those, it's something new for us. So we're maybe not sure exactly what it's all about to begin with, but I really appreciate Tyler Lynn suggesting that we do this and suggesting specifically this C.S. Lewis book to go through. This Wednesday night, we have midweek youth group from 6:30 to 8 o'clock at the East Side building. We'll be indoors again, so wear a mask. This past Wednesday night was our first indoor session and also youth-led worship. It was a great time. Thanks to our new youth-led worship team for kicking us off. We are going to begin in a couple of weeks, small groups on Wednesday nights. We'll do that one Wednesday night a month, and we're actually going to do youth-led worship a couple of Wednesdays a month, not with a message always, but just with the worship leading together. So just look forward to that coming up. Also, in 2 weeks, on the 14th and 15th, maybe just the 14th, we have our annual urban retreat. And this is for 8th through 12th grade. This week, our theme is one, based on Galatians 3:28. And we're going to be looking at some really important issues in regards to preferences and biases and prejudices. We'll be looking at racism and a lot of the isms that are out there and trying to determine what some of our biases are and how those become sinful in our lives. So it's going to be, I think, a great retreat together. We'll be staying in town, in Tulsa, sleeping in our own beds overnight. But plan on joining us for that. We'll have a sign up starting this week for that retreat. And I think for right now, that's all the announcements that we have coming up. I hope you've enjoyed today. I hope you enjoy this new format moving forward. I think it's going to be fun to have some conversations with some of you. And so whoever would like to be a part of the conversation next week, 1 or 2 people each week, let me know. Give me a text and say, hey, Trent, I'd like to do that. What's my verse? Basically, I'll give you a verse and you will just read through that and just come back and talk to us about what really stood out to you and what felt personal to you from that verse or that passage. So anyway, have a great week, and thanks for joining us again for online Bible class. Take care.